He was the most powerful man in New York, and he had never felt more alone. Julian Thorne stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his 42nd floor office, watching the city shimmer below him like something he could own but never touch. $3 billion. That was his net worth. That was what the internet said he was worth. But as he looked at his own reflection in the glass, he wondered what he was actually worth to anyone. His money, yes. His connections, definitely. His company, absolutely. But him? Just Julian? A man without the empire? He honestly did not know if anyone would care. Please guys, help get to 1,000 subscribers by hitting the subscribe button, like, comment if you enjoy watching my video. Thank you. The problem was simple but suffocating. Everyone wanted something from him. His business partners wanted control of his technology. His so-called friends wanted access to his wealth. His employees wanted promotions. And Vivian Cross, his fiancée, the beautiful blonde influencer he had met at a charity gala 2 years ago, wanted everything except him. He had finally admitted this truth to himself last Tuesday during a video call. She had asked about the bonus structure for the quarterly earnings before asking how he was feeling. She had asked about his health. She had asked about his weekend plans. She had asked about the new penthouse in the Hamptons. But she had never asked how he was. Not once in 2 years. Julian had made his fortune designing algorithms that read people. Code that could predict behavior, understand desire, decode human motivation. It was revolutionary. It was also a curse. Because now he understood everyone around him too well. He could see the transaction happening behind their eyes the moment they looked at him. He could almost hear the calculation. He could feel the hunger. And he was tired. Exhausted. Hollow. He picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Schedule a press release," he said. "Tell the world I'm taking an extended business trip. 1 month. Possibly longer. No one knows where." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, we have the company gala scheduled for the 23rd. That's in." "I'll be back by then," Julian interrupted. "Tell them I have critical meetings in Tokyo, Shanghai, London. Somewhere important. I don't care. Just make it sound urgent." 24 hours later, the story was everywhere. Business news outlets covered it. Financial analysts speculated. His stock price dipped slightly, recovered slightly, then stabilized. Julian Thorne, the mysterious tech genius, was disappearing again. This time for a month. What nobody knew was that he was not going anywhere. He was going nowhere. He was going down. 3 floors below his office, in a storage room that housed cleaning supplies, Julian changed his clothes. He took off his $12,000 Tom Ford suit and his $3,000 dress shoes and his Cartier watch. He put on gray cotton. A janitor's uniform that cost $47. A name tag that read JAN. And he disappeared. The plan was simple. For 1 month, he would work as a janitor in his own building. He would sweep hallways and empty trash cans and clean bathrooms. He would move through the building invisible, watching people interact with him as if he was nothing, as if he was furniture or air. And in that invisibility, he hoped to find one person. Just one person who would look at him and see a human being instead of a paycheck. One person who would treat him with basic human kindness without expecting a reward. It was a desperate experiment. It was also the only thing he had left to believe in. For 3 days, nobody noticed him. That was the miracle and the heartbreak all at once. He could walk into a conference room where people were talking about him, and they would not even glance in his direction. He emptied the trash beside the desk of his VP of engineering, a man named David Chun who Julian had mentored for 5 years. David was too busy typing an email to notice Julian's presence. He did not say hello. He did not say thank you. He did not look at Julian at all. The invisibility was liberating and devastating. Julian cleaned toilets on the executive floor and listened to people complain about him. "The janitor never does a good job on this floor," someone said while he was mopping outside their office. He had just cleaned that bathroom. He knew it was spotless. But he said nothing. He just kept working. By day 5, he had begun to understand something about the building he owned. He understood that his employees were not bad people. They were just people. They were caught in a system where they were invisible too, in their own ways. The junior analysts were invisible to the senior partners. The assistants were invisible to their bosses. The janitor, him, was invisible to everyone. It was a building full of invisible people working for a company worth billions. And then he met Elena. She found him on the 7th floor, in the accounting department, where his trash overflow had gotten stuck in the hallway. He was on his hands and knees, trying to dislodge the bin from where it had gotten wedged against a door. He was frustrated. He was tired. He was seconds away from losing his temper and then remembering he could not lose his temper because he was supposed to be a janitor, and janitors did not get to be angry. "Here, let me help," a woman said. Julian looked up and saw her. She was 32 years old, though she looked older. Her eyes had the particular tiredness that comes from carrying a burden that never gets lighter. She was wearing a gray blazer over a plain white shirt, and her dark hair was pulled back in a bun. She was not wearing makeup. She had not slept well in what appeared to be months. She was also beautiful. "I've got it," Julian said, not wanting to involve her. "No, you don't," she said firmly. "I've watched you work for 5 days. You help everyone else, and no one helps you. So I'm going to help you. That's how this works." Together, they freed the trash bin. It came loose with a sudden jolt that almost knocked both of them backward. Elena laughed. It was the first genuine laugh Julian had heard in months. It was not a performance. It was not a social convention. It was pure, unguarded joy. "I'm Elena," she said. She extended her hand. Julian took it. Her palm was warm. Her grip was firm. She was looking directly at his eyes, not through him or past him or around him. She was looking at him. "Jan," he said, using the name on his uniform. "Well, Jan," Elena said, "it looks like someone should invent a janitor-proof trash bin. This is ridiculous. Those other ones get stuck at least twice a week." It was such a small thing. She was simply acknowledging that the system was broken, and that it was not his fault. But it nearly made him cry. "Do you want some coffee?" she asked. "I have some real coffee. Not that office garbage." They sat in the break room on the 7th floor. Elena poured him coffee from a carafe she had brought from home. It was dark and smooth and perfect. She sat across from him and asked him questions. Not the kind of questions people asked strangers. Real questions. About what he was thinking. About what he was feeling. About what was bothering him. "You seem like you have something weighing on you," she said. "A lot of weight." Julian found himself telling her things. He told her he felt invisible. He told her he could not remember the last time someone had looked at him and just seen him, without calculating his value or his usefulness. He told her he was tired of being alone in a building full of people. He did not tell her who he was. That would have been a betrayal of the experiment. But he told her everything else. Elena listened. She did not try to fix him. She did not offer platitudes. She did not suggest that he needed a therapist or a vacation or a new perspective. She just listened, and when he was done speaking, she told him about her daughter. "Her name is Sophie," Elena said. "She's 7 years old. And 2 years ago, We found out she has acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Julian felt the weight of those words settle in the space between them. The doctors say she's going to be okay, Elena continued. We're 2 years into treatment. She's in remission now. But those 2 years, those have been the hardest 2 years of my life. And I've spent those 2 years working here, making $72,000 a year, while her medical bills are running $40,000 a year. So I've had to get creative. I've had to borrow money from my parents. I've had to pick up weekend shifts cleaning hotel rooms. And I've had to make peace with the fact that I'm never going to catch up. I'm sorry, Julian said. It was inadequate. It was all he had. But you know what keeps me going? Elena asked. It's knowing that there are people in the world who notice when someone else is suffering. People who see that struggle and respond with compassion instead of judgment. People who treat strangers like they matter. That's what I'm teaching Sophie. That's what I believe in. Elena looked at him directly. You matter, January. Just by existing, you matter. And I'm glad you're here, even if I don't know your whole story. That was the moment Julian Thorne understood what he had been searching for. It was not a person who would love him. It was not a person who would validate him. It was a person who would see him struggling and extend kindness without expecting anything in return. It was Elena. For the next 2 weeks, Julian reorganized his schedule around the moments he could spend with her. He would make sure to clean the 7th floor right around 2 p.m., when Elena usually took her lunch break. He would empty the trash cans on her row. He would see her and feel, for a moment, like he was not drowning. Elena began saving portions of her lunch to share with him. Nothing extravagant. A sandwich. Some fruit. A cookie her mother had made. But it was an act of conscious kindness. She was thinking about him. She was making space for him in her life. And then Vivian arrived. She came on day 15 of Julian's experiment. She came with her personal photographer and her assistant and her hairstylist. She was filming a video series called A Day with Vivian, and she had decided that a visit to her fiancé's company headquarters would be the perfect content. Powerful. Impressive. The kind of thing that would really resonate with her 2 million followers. Vivian was wearing white Alexander McQueen, even though it was a Tuesday morning in an office. She was wearing 6-inch heels. She was wearing sunglasses indoors. She had a small crew following her around, ready to catch her from any angle that would make her look beautiful and important. Julian watched her sweep through the building from a distance. He watched her dismiss people with a wave of her hand. He watched her film herself standing in front of his company's logo, narrating something about being proud of her fiancé's success. The whole performance was coordinated and calculated and empty of anything real. He kept his head down. He tried to stay invisible. But then it happened. Vivian was walking through the 5th floor hallway, still filming, still narrating the importance of her presence here. She was talking about how supportive she was of Julian's work, how important it was to her to understand his world. One of her heels caught the edge of a carpet. She stumbled. An engineer's coffee cup, left on a small side table, went flying. It exploded across the light gray carpet in a burst of dark liquid. For a moment, there was silence. Everyone froze. Vivian looked down at the stain spreading across the carpet. Then she looked up, and her face twisted with anger. But not at herself. Never at herself. "Where is the cleaning staff?" she demanded. "This is disgusting. How is anyone supposed to work in these conditions?" Julian heard the commotion. He knew what was happening. He considered walking the other direction. Going to another floor. Pretending he had not heard anything. But something made him turn the corner. He needed to see this. He needed to understand what it would feel like to be beneath her. He walked toward her with his cleaning supplies. The moment Vivian saw him, her face twisted further. "You," she said. "Clean this up. And be quick about it. We're trying to film here. And be careful. I don't want you messing this up." Julian got on his hands and knees. He felt the stain of coffee beneath his fingers. He felt it absorbing into the carpet. He felt Vivian standing above him, watching, not with sympathy, but with satisfaction. As if she was pleased to see someone reduced to this level of service. "You missed a spot," she said. There was no missed spot. But he scrubbed anyway. He scrubbed until his fingers were raw. "Actually, do it again," Vivian said. "I can still see it." And that was when Elena rounded the corner. She saw Julian on his hands and knees. She saw Vivian standing above him, arms crossed. She saw the situation immediately for what it was, a moment of deliberate cruelty. Elena walked directly to Vivian. "Excuse me," she said, her voice calm and steady. "But that carpet was clean. Jan cleaned this entire floor this morning. You spilled that coffee. And you're asking him to clean it again as some kind of punishment. I'm not going to stand here and watch that happen." Vivian's face went white. No one spoke to her like that. No one had ever challenged her. She was beautiful. She was famous. She was untouchable. "Who do you think you are?" Vivian said. "I'm someone who believes in treating other people with basic human respect," Elena said. "And I'm asking you to apologize to Jan, and then I'm going to ask you to leave." Vivian laughed. It was a sound without warmth. "Do you know who I am? Do you know who my fiancé is?" "I know exactly who your fiancé is," Elena said. "And I think he's very lucky that you're about to walk out of his life. Because any man who would let you treat another person like this is not a man worth keeping." The hallway had gone completely silent. People were watching. Phones were coming out. Elena had just, in front of God and everyone, told Vivian Cross exactly what she thought of her. Vivian's jaw clenched. She gestured to her photographer. "We're done here. This place is beneath me anyway." She walked away, her heels clicking against the marble with each step. Her assistant scurried after her. The photographer hesitated, then followed. And just like that, the performance was over. Elena helped Julian to his feet. He was shaking. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm fine," he said. But he was not fine. He was everything except fine. Because Elena had just stood up for him. Elena had just risked her job, her relationship with the company, her entire career, to defend someone she thought was just a janitor. She had done it because it was the right thing to do. Not because she expected anything in return. Not because there was something in it for her. But because she believed that kindness was supposed to be unconditional. That night, Julian could not sleep. He sat in the darkened office on the 42nd floor and stared at the city below. He thought about his fiancée. He thought about the way she had looked at Elena, as if Elena was something less than human. He thought about the way she had treated him, as if it was her right to degrade someone she considered beneath her. And he made a decision. He was not going to marry Vivian Cross. But before he could act on that decision, something else happened. He found the documents. He was cleaning the executive conference room on day 21 of his experiment. The conference table was cleared, but someone had left documents behind. Pages marked, "Confidential." Julian should not have looked. He had made a rule for himself. He would not violate anyone's privacy. He would not cheat. He would observe without interfering. But the header of the first document caught his eye. Project Exodus, Phase 2 Implementation. Julian knew that name. Project Exodus was his most classified project. Only 3 people in the entire company knew about it. His COO Marcus Webb, his VP of Engineering David Chun, and Julian himself. He read the first page, then the second, then the third. What he found stopped his heart. The documents were not about implementing Project Exodus. They were about selling it to a company called Nexus Capital, a rival tech firm that had been trying to acquire Thorne Technologies for 2 years. The asking price was $200 million. The timeline was 6 months. And the person brokering the deal was Vivian Cross. Julian had to sit down. He had to read it 3 times before he could actually process what he was seeing. His fiancée was stealing his technology. But it was worse than that. She was not working alone. The documents showed that Marcus Webb was part of the conspiracy. His closest advisor. His trusted business partner. They were working together. They were betraying him together. And when Julian read further, he found evidence that they were doing more than just stealing technology. They were planning to disappear. To vanish with $200 million. To start a new life together in the Cayman Islands. Julian photographed the documents with his phone. Then he put them back exactly where he had found them. And then he did something he swore he would never do. He hacked into Vivian's email accounts. It took him 6 minutes. Her security was non-existent. Her password was Vivian Cross 1, with an exclamation point, written in a notebook in her apartment. He had designed that apartment for her. He had her keys. He knew her routines. What he found in her emails was confirmation of everything. There were hundreds of messages between her and Marcus. They were explicit. They were intimate. They showed a relationship that had been going on for at least 2 years. They showed a plan that had been carefully constructed, timed for the day after the company gala, when Julian was supposed to make a public appearance and the whole world would be watching him instead of noticing that 2 critical employees were disappearing. Julian sat in his penthouse apartment, reading emails between his fiancée and his COO, and he felt something die inside him. Not his love for Vivian. That had died long ago. But his hope. His belief that there was still something good left in the world. If the 2 people closest to him were capable of this betrayal, what did that say about everyone else? He thought of Elena. He thought of her kindness. He thought of the way she had defended him. And for the first time since he started his experiment, he wondered if she was different, or if she was just better at hiding her true nature. The thought nearly destroyed him. For 3 days, Julian withdrew from everyone, including Elena. He stopped trying to see her at 2 p.m. He stopped accepting her lunch offerings. He kept his distance. He needed to know if she was involved. If her kindness was just a performance, a long con to get closer to him for some purpose he did not yet understand. He investigated her. He looked at her financial records. He found that she was exactly who she said she was. A single mother working 2 jobs to pay for her daughter's medical treatment. No secret accounts. No suspicious deposits. No connections to Nexus Capital or Marcus Webb or anyone who would benefit from Project Exodus being stolen. By day 24, Julian had confirmed that Elena was innocent. And he hated himself for doubting her. On the morning of day 25, he waited for her in the break room. He was still wearing his janitor uniform. He had not revealed himself. He was not sure how to do that without destroying the experiment and losing her trust completely. Elena came in at 2:15 p.m., which was later than usual. She looked sad. She looked like she had been crying. "I'm leaving," she said, not to him, but to the room in general. "I got an offer for a new job. Better pay. Still in accounting, but in a different firm. I'm going to take it. I need to. Sophie's medical bills are getting worse, not better, and I can't keep pretending that $72,000 a year is enough." Julian felt his entire world collapse. "Elena," he said. She turned and saw him. The moment their eyes met, she froze. "It's you," she said. And that was when Julian realized that Elena had known who he was. Maybe not from the beginning. But she knew. She had always known. "I can explain," Julian said. "No," Elena said. "You don't need to explain. I figured it out about a week ago. I saw a financial magazine while I was doing some cleaning at the hotel. There was a picture of you in it. And Sophie was using magazines for an art project, so I cut out your picture and put it in her collage. She has it in her hospital room. It's been on the wall for almost 6 months. I've been looking at your face every time I visit her. So yes, I know who you are. Why didn't you tell me? Julian asked. Because I needed to know if your kindness was real, Elena said. I needed to know if you would look at me and see a person, not an opportunity. I needed to know if there was something actually good about you underneath the money and the power. And I found out that there is. So I'm going to accept this job offer, and I'm going to give Sophie the best life I can, and I'm going to try to forget that I ever fell in love with a man I knew was not actually a janitor. Elena, wait, Julian said. But she was already walking away. He had 24 hours until the company gala. 24 hours until he was supposed to show up and make his big public appearance. 24 hours until Vivian and Marcus executed the final phase of their plan. Julian made a decision. He was going to go to the gala. He was going to reveal his identity. He was going to fire Vivian and Marcus. And he was going to promote Elena to CEO, not because she was qualified, though she was, but because she was the only person in his entire company who had proven that she understood what loyalty actually meant. The gala was held at the Plaza Hotel. 500 of the most powerful people in New York were in attendance. There were celebrities and politicians, venture capitalists and media moguls. Champagne fountains flowed. String quartets played classical music. It was elegant and expensive and completely empty. Vivian was there, looking stunning in a custom Versace gown, working the room like she owned it. Marcus was there too, making calculations, waiting for the moment when they would execute their disappearance. And then Julian walked in. He was wearing a custom Valentino suit. He was clean-shaven. He was every inch the billionaire CEO. And the moment he appeared, the entire room seemed to pause. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. The man everyone thought was in Shanghai was suddenly in New York, at his own company's gala, looking more alive than anyone had seen him in years. Vivian's face went pale. She understood immediately that everything had changed. Julian walked directly to the center of the ballroom, where a microphone had been set up for toasts. He picked it up. "Good evening," he said. His voice cut through the entire room. "Thank you all for coming. I have an announcement to make." The room went silent. "For the past month, I have been living in disguise," Julian said. "I have been working as a janitor in my own building, trying to understand who I am beneath the title and the money. In that time, I learned something important. I learned that loyalty is not something you can buy. It's something you earn. And more importantly, it's something you recognize when you see it." He pressed a button on his phone. Security footage appeared on the massive screens that flanked the ballroom. It showed Marcus and Vivian in intimate embrace. It showed them discussing their plan to steal Project Exodus. It showed them planning their escape. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. People gasped. Security moved in to detain both Marcus and Vivian. They did not go quietly. Vivian screamed that it was a setup. Marcus's face remained a mask of cold calculation. But it did not matter. The evidence was overwhelming. The conspiracy was exposed. Then Julian said something that made the entire room go completely still. "As of this moment, I am stepping down as CEO of Thorne Technologies," he announced. "The new CEO will be Elena Voss. Elena is an accountant in our accounting department. Most of you don't know her. She probably doesn't even know who most of you are. But Elena is the most intelligent, the most loyal, and the most profoundly human person I have ever met. And she is going to lead this company into the future." There was stunned silence. Elena was in the back of the room, hidden by the crowd. Her hands went to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. Julian handed the microphone to the event coordinator and walked away from the stage. He made his way through the crowd, through the sea of powerful people and expensive clothes and calculated expressions, and he walked directly toward her. When he reached her, she was crying. Julian, I can't, she said. I'm not qualified. I don't know anything about running a company. I'm just. You're someone who showed me what loyalty looks like, Julian said. You're someone who treated a stranger with respect when your own life was falling apart. You're someone who knew who I was and chose not to use that knowledge against me. You're the only person in my entire life who has ever done that. And I trust you. I trust you more than I've ever trusted anyone. Elena looked at him. She looked at the room full of powerful people watching them. She looked at the magnitude of what was being asked of her. And then she made a choice. Okay, she said. Okay. I'll do it. That night, after the gala had ended, after the police had taken Vivian and Marcus away, after the business deal with Nexus Capital had been blocked and the stolen technology had been secured, Julian and Elena sat alone in his office, looking out at the city lights. I need to tell you something, Elena said. About Sophie. About why I couldn't say no. You don't have to tell me anything, Julian said. No, I do, Elena said. Sophie's father died 3 years ago. It was an accident at work. But I always felt like there was something else to it. Something that was being covered up. And when I got home tonight, I received a letter from a private investigator I hired months ago. Before I even knew who you were. The letter contained proof that your company, under Marcus Webb's supervision, covered up the real cause of his death. They paid off the authorities. They buried the truth. Julian felt his chest tighten. Elena, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If I had known. I know you didn't, Elena said. And that's why I trust you. That's why I'm going to work for you. Because you're a person who can grow. Who can change. Who can admit when he's been wrong. And Sophie, she's been struggling with the loss of her father for so long. But knowing that someone is going to finally uncover the truth, that someone cares enough to make sure we get answers, that means something. She took his hand. Thank you, she said, for being the kind of man who was willing to dress up as a janitor to find someone worth loving. Thank you for being brave enough to expose the darkness in your own company. Thank you for believing that I deserved this opportunity. Julian held her hand. For the first time in his entire adult life, he did not feel alone. There's one more thing, Elena said. Something I need you to know. Even before I knew who you were, even when I thought you were just a janitor, I was falling in love with you. I want you to know that. I want you to know that when I defended you against Vivian, I did it because I genuinely believed you deserved better. Not because I hoped you would reward me, but because it was the right thing to do. Julian pulled her close. I know, he said. I've always known. That's what made you different from everyone else. They sat together as the night deepened, as the city lights below them began to dim, as the weight of everything that had happened began to settle into something they could carry together. And that was supposed to be the end of the story. But 3 months later, as Elena was settling into her role as CEO, as Sophie was progressing through her final rounds of chemotherapy, as Julian was learning what it meant to step back and let someone else lead, Elena received a phone call. It was from the chief of security at Thorne Technologies. We found something, he said. Anomalies in the Project.Exodus files. Evidence that suggests Marcus and Vivian were not working alone. There's someone else involved. Someone who still has access to our systems. Elena felt her blood run cold. She called Julian. She called the security team. And she watched as they began to investigate the scope of the conspiracy. What they found was terrifying. There was someone inside the company. Someone who had been embedded since the beginning. Someone who had been waiting for their moment. Someone who had just begun to make their move. The screens in Julian's office flashed red. An alarm began to sound. And a voice came through the speakers, automated and cold. Unauthorized access detected. Project.Exodus files have been compromised. Facility lockdown initiated. The door locked. The windows frosted over. And in that moment, Elena and Julian understood that the real battle was just beginning. The conspiracy was larger than they had thought. The betrayal was deeper. And the person orchestrating it all was still out there, still inside the building, still in the darkness. Elena looked at Julian. Julian looked at Elena. And without speaking, they both understood what they had to do. They had to run. They had to find the truth. They had to protect Sophie. They had to survive long enough to expose the entire network of people who wanted to destroy them. The real story was just beginning.